Welcome to this week's episode of the Rutledge Perspective, and y'all are gonna love this. Love, 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 love. So I have my guest today is Miss Farah Harris, and she is a psychotherapist and workplace wellness expert. And Farah, yay, this is gonna be great. I'm
Yes,
so
it is.
excited to have you here.
Same
It's
here.
Yeah, and so what we're going to do, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about her. We're going to put the full bio as we always do. When we do the video and we release the podcast, you'll have the full bio. But I want to read a little bit so that we're ready to get going, and then we're going to get into it. So Farah Harris is a psychotherapist and a workplace wellness champion dedicated to disrupting toxic work environments. She is the owner of WorkingWell Daily, which is a company committed to addressing work-life alignment, equity, and mental wellness. Her personal mission is to help individuals and organizations decrease symptoms of stress and burnout, elevate their emotional intelligence, and improve morale by implementing strategies to create healthier work cultures. Now, y'all see why I have her on here? I'm just saying. And this is what's so great about this, and why I'm so excited is that, mental health and mental wellness is so important. And we talk about wellness a lot. And even when I was in HR, we talk wellness, but I'm like, I want wellness with a big W: financial, right? Emotional and physical, all three. It's not just a little W. So all three. And I think this COVID thing has really made us think more about not only our physical wellness, but that emotional and psychological wellness. And so as we get into this, let's first start, Farah, with tell us a little bit more about what you're doing now, Working Well Daily, how you're serving right in this moment.
Yeah, well, it is an interesting season that we're all in, right? And
Yes.
so working as a psychotherapist has been amazing to have that one-on-one relationship with my clients. But I know that my clients end up having to go to places that don't necessarily serve them well, especially my
Right.
Black clients. And so
Yeah.
working well daily it has so many different angles and directions that I can come from,
Mm-hmm.
but mainly because of COVID and unfortunately all of the civil unrest, I've been
Right.
speaking mostly about the wellness of Black employees and the Black
Mm-hmm.
individuals. So I'm kind of
Mm-hmm.
helping them navigate how to be well in and out of work.
Right.
And what does that look like, especially when we're dealing with work and life? I'm calling it forced work-life integration. We're dealing
Yes.
with both of these things at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so Working Well Daily is really here to help you recognize that there has to be some alignment. It's not balance,
Yes.
because our priorities are always going to move and shift
Yes.
depending on what's going on. But if our values are always there to kind of help set our boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
we will have a more aligned way of living. So I like to help my people off and on the couch.
Oh, see, I love that because all last week I talked about alignment and that
Mm,
that whole idea of really understanding your values, right? What's important to you,
yeah,
where you're trying to go. If you can get all of that stuff aligned, your actions can then support that. And when something's not feeling right, that's the first place you check. Is this still aligned with what I'm trying to do? Because if it's not, that's probably why you don't have energy or any of that kind of stuff around it, right?
talk
Because it's
about
just
it.
not aligned. So let's, just so much. So let's go here, right? So when you think about what's happening now in corporate, because I want people to understand kind of where you're coming from and how you got to this place. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about your journey, because I just know, because I know you and we've talked about it, that you came out of kind of that corporate arena, but help the listeners understand your journey, not only from corporate into doing your own thing, therapy of all places, then back into kind of the corporate space as someone who is helping people in corporate. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we all have, winding roads. There's very few of us that knew from since I was 5, I was going to be a veterinarian, and everything you did landed you to where you are today. But most of
Right.
us, I say that our life is just a whole bunch of recycling. We
Mm-hmm.
use things that we've known or been in our past to end up where we are today. And so
Right.
before I was, in marketing, but I originally started thinking I was going to be the real life Claire Huxtable and go into corporate law. And it
Yes.
was like, yes, I'm going to be this lawyer. It's going to be magnificent
Yeah.
and I'm going to make money and this is going to be
Mm-hmm.
great. And friends and family looked at me like, okay, girl, you are a creative
Are you
friend. Like I
sure?
thought you were
Right.
going to go into design or whatever. And so
Yeah.
that just lets you know how amazing Felicia Rashad was as her character, that I was like,
Oh,
I want to be her,
yes.
And so
Yes.
I took my first law class and was like, oh no. ma'am,
Right.
this is not what you want to do.
Right.
But I had already done all these years and got all these credits. I was like, well, I need the degree. So
Right.
I have an economics and a bachelor's in economics and a bachelor's in marketing. And I did the corporate thing and was like, back to that alignment thing. I was like, something is not aligned here. And so I left corporate, and during that year of hiatus, I was just really seeking, okay, where's the next step? And surprisingly enough, I never would have imagined mental health being the place to go.
Right.
But my footsteps led me to mental health, and I am so glad to be here. This is definitely the space that I'm supposed to be in. Originally thinking I was going to do marriage and family. Not want to work with couples, bless those who do, but they are tiring for me. But the space of understanding, I was always the person who wanted to know the why. Like, why do you do what you do? What makes you pick? How does your past impact where you are today? And how does your behavior impact everybody else around you? And so, and then I was looking at my husband who's in banking, friends who are in advertising, and I was like, you guys are so stressed. Like, what's going on? Like, your bosses just don't seem to have emotional intelligence. The workplace seems stressful and toxic, and we have this culture, societal culture of hustle, perform, produce. Even in a pandemic, I'm just like, y'all feel it. Y'all just want to act okay, dying out here. Like, we're just going to keep acting like everything is normal, which is my concern, and I believe a concern of all of us who are in the field of the mental health crisis that will come, once the outside opens up again. What are people really going to be experiencing after having to kind of force their way through all of this? But it is, like I said, a recycle thing that I was like, okay, I'm in a mental health space. This is great. But then my clients were coming in, and many times they were talking about what was going on at work and how to manage the stress from work and how to deal. And we spend so many hours, so much of our day, so much of our life in the workplace. And I was like, we need to figure out how to work well. And so
love that.
And working well is more than just the labor, it is the life that we live and how we do that. So, so it ended up being kind of a roundabout way to kind of merge my two careers into one.
And what's so exciting about that, and we're going to get into this podcast, which is a little bit different than some of the others, and really dig a little bit into kind of that whole workplace wellness thing, right? And that alignment. But I'm hoping the listeners really heard what you said, in that you said yes. This wasn't what your plan was. You just knew what you were doing was not it. And so we often get into that place where it's something we love. It's what we think we want to do. It's, it's what we're supposed to do, right? You go get a job, you go get a paycheck, you climb the corporate ladder. You're supposed to do those things. And for those of us where it doesn't feel aligned, or even if corporate is the right thing for you, but that job is not the right job, or that function is not the right function, instead of us sitting with that, just sit with that a minute and say, okay, is this just that I'm irritated right now and this is just some piece of it that I don't like? Or is this really not aligned with where I'm supposed to be, what my purpose is? And be willing to have that conversation with yourself, and then be willing to step out and just say yes to something else that may or may not be it, but at least it's not the thing that wasn't working.
Yes. But I think what you said was key exercise that many of us don't want to do, right? That self-awareness of wondering or asking ourselves, is it the job? Is it the position? Is it the company? Is it the people? Because there's so many things that can impact our well-being that we're more frustrated just because we have coworkers and colleagues that just aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, right?
Exactly.
You're just like, I know more than everybody here, and this is so stressful. It was interesting. My husband and I were watching Undercover Boss a couple of nights ago, and it was the CEO of Gigi's Cupcakes.
Okay.
And
yeah.
One of her, undercover moments, she meets with a woman who was very strict. Like, she was almost a little anal retentive,
right,
on how to make the cakes, right? And so she was, doing the cakes, and she was like, nope, that's wrong. We're starting over. And undercover CEO.
Right.
Okay, I'm a little bit nervous. I'm a little bit scared. I don't know
Right.
what's going on. But as she got into her story, and she was like, why is she canceling take orders? Like, we should be doing take orders.
Right.
She's like, I'm the only one. And as she looked
Wow.
and watched, like, she was excellent in what she did.
Yes.
Unfortunately, she was overworked, underpaid,
Mm-hmm.
and her level of expertise was just not being elevated in the space that she needed. So
Right.
once she, took off the mask and they had the little sit down at the end of the
Yeah.
show, she's like, I'm going to bring you to corporate to train you so that you can actually be a director of our design team, because that's where you need to be.
So I'm getting chills. Yes.
We're stressed because it's not that we're in the wrong field, we're just in the wrong place. And so we need to either move into a different, position, or we need
Yes.
to move out of that company, but still stay in the same field someplace else. But it is
Yes.
what you said exactly. You have to sit down, ask yourself the
Yes.
question, what is it that's not aligned? Is
Right.
it the people, the position, the
Mm-hmm.
place, or, leadership? It's like sometimes you
Exactly.
just have a bad boss and you need to
Sometimes
leave
you
that
just have a
boss
bad boss. Yes. Yes.
and go be under somebody
Exactly.
else.
Exactly. And I tell people all the time, don't hurt you because you're mad at somebody else, right? Don't just get angry and just leave. I mean, that is a choice. Now, if you've got a really bad boss, if you're in danger, if you're really in a position where you just can't take anymore, then you need to go. But don't just do knee jerk, I'm out, right? Because you're mad at somebody else. That whole attitude,
Right.
that's the kind of stuff. What is that? The old saying with the old folks, a hard head makes a soft behind,
Yes.
right? Don't do something don't write a check your mouth can't cash, right?
Yes.
So, and they
Yes.
used other words instead of mouth.
Yes.
But so, when I hear you talk about that, that's one of the things I also encourage leaders, business owners, functional leaders. It's not always that someone isn't performing. It's not always that they are the bad person. Sometimes it's a fit issue. They are not the right fit for that job. And if you find that fit, if you find that alignment, oh my gosh, it's like
amazing.
Right. People are firing on all cylinders, right? And they're happier, you're happier, and everybody's more productive, right? Because that's why they had this whole build up for many years. Engagement. We got to get our people engaged, because engaged people are more productive people. Well, that sounds really good.
Right. But how do you get there?
How do you get there? How do you get there? So as we look at kind of that pivot you were willing to take, that risk, that courage that you had to say, yeah, this isn't it, but there's something else. And then to step into something you never thought of. Let's talk about that wellness piece in the organization, because as you and I have talked, there's reasons why we decide to leave. But there are people who that's really what their heart's desire is. They love this corporate grind, but it is really grinding them right now. So what are some of the key things that you are starting to see, especially in this pandemic, that people really need to think about and know it's not them? They're not crazy. They really need to pay attention to whatever this thing is.
Since we've talked,
yes,
I keep thinking about, it's just the articles that are being written about how to work from home well, and so find a spot and, make sure that you take a shower and all of these, and it's important.
Put your clothes on, right? Put
your clothes on, make sure you got drawers and pants.
Right.
Like, don't just come on the Zoom because people assume they're only going to see the top part of you.
Right.
It is something to be able to recognize, okay, what were my self-care tools? What was in my toolbox before this happened? And can I still utilize those tools? Or do I have to make some adjustments? Because not everything's a nail. So you can't just keep using hammers. And so I would recognize with my clients who were frustrated in the beginning because they're like, I love the gym. I can't go to the gym. And I was like, okay, but do you like to exercise? Like, is it the gym or do you like exercising? And they're like, oh, okay, I guess I can go to an open track field and do my running there. And so learning how to modify some of the self-care tools that you've already used, but then, and we're going to be specific on what it's like to be a Black person during, COVID. Yes. The anxiety that I've recognized and the symptoms of depression that I've recognized with a couple of my clients due to having to open your laptop and bring people in your house that you would
Yes.
never invite to your house.
Yes.
You have
Yes.
people coming into your space and you realize like, oh, well, at home is my safe space. It's my comfort zone. It is security. I let my hair down. And so if you're one of those individuals who may have straightened their hair for work,
Yes.
or put on some kind of work identity that is, again, back to alignment,
Yes.
is not authentic and in line to who you naturally are, this has definitely elevated symptoms that have affected your well-being, because you're like, oh my gosh, do I have to code switch in my own house?
Right.
Do I have to be somebody different, in the space that I'm supposed to feel safe? And so that has been something where I've been challenging my clients to learn how to be comfortable in other people's discomfort. In the sense of like, be yourself and they will adjust. So if they've never seen your Afro puff, let it flow, let it grow, let it be out there, let they can see it, but also to create some sense of protection of your space. So try to find a spot that is consistently where you will do your video calls, so that people aren't going like, well, what's behind you over there, Loretta?
Right.
So hungry.
I didn't know you had a dog. Right.
And again, usually they'll be asking certain things, especially if they feel like they don't know you. And so if they see your background and it's consistent with who you are, then there's usually something that you just don't think about it. It's like, I just show up as Farah because I'm Farah. But if I know I've been, in a way, somebody different, then my home will reflect that different identity. And so I've been really trying to help my amazing Black clients who are in the corporate space to show up authentically them, and to learn how to be comfortable and to do that self-work on, well, why do I still feel the need to not be authentically myself?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I want to talk about the code switching and the balance at work. And I want to start here with one of the things you said, which is that whole imposter syndrome, right? How you're showing up at work versus when somebody comes into your home, and even having people show up in your home. So there's kind of that, having people get to know you and what that means culturally, and then that's how you show up. So if we think about first, let's talk about getting to know you, because that really relates to kind of this home thing and having people see your house and see your space.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, because I don't love corporate parties. I don't like those kind of gatherings. We've had that conversation. I hate that stuff. Little chit chat kind of, because I've got some really, really close friends and family. My circle of close people is very, very small. Yeah. Tons of acquaintances. But those folks who really, really know me is very small. And I'm good with that. And I'm not one of those people who seeks or needs my job to be my family. That's not how I'm wired. But there are other people who that's their thing, right?
Yeah.
But here's the challenge, and here's what I want to ask you about, which is, when you go to those corporate events, it is not about you. It is about the other people, especially if you're really trying to move through an organization.
Yeah.
It is about their comfort with you. So just like you said, be comfortable with their discomfort. The other side of that coin is, if they don't know you, they can't support you and they can't push you up. And so how do we, especially people of color, and in particular Black people who've been taught, you don't put your business in the street, people don't need to know everything. How do you help your clients walk that line of letting people in so they get to know them and being who they are, so that when they are showing up on Zoom now, it's like, oh, wait, I thought her hair was short.
Right. Who's this?
Right. I didn't know she was married, that kind of thing.
I think I approach it in a similar way that I approach those who are naturally introverted. So when you think about like networking, people usually don't want to do it because of what you said. They don't want the surface level, foo-foo conversation. It doesn't go anywhere. And so I said, but you have to remember that we're dealing with people.
Yes.
Point blank, period. And people like to talk about themselves. And so to learn how to, in a way, the art of conversation. Right. You don't need to talk to 20 million people. Just pick the 2, maybe 3 that are like decision makers, or someone that that you need to get to know. Right. And just get to know them. And then the more you get to know them, offer a little bit of yourself that, can bring some kind of connection, They got kids, you got kids. Guess what? Y'all both got
Right.
kids. Y'all can talk about,
Right.
the frustrations of parenting or,
Right.
cool things that happen. And you don't have to give every single detail, but there's enough
Right.
there that someone can go, doing, and be like, oh yeah, he just turned 5, and just little things like that people remember. Because I
Yes.
think oftentimes we want to just go, well, this is a job, so I have to talk about everything job related. And
Right.
it's work, 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 work. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
but people will feel more comfortable with you when you
Yes.
allow them to actually experience being a person.
Yes. Oh,
And
that's so
so,
good.
so when I go to the corporate events with my husband, oftentimes my husband's like, how did you get all that information? I'm like, one, I just think I do have a natural gift, and you need it as a therapist, that I
Right.
create safe spaces for people.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Mm-hmm.
usually have an inquisitive mind to go like, well, tell me more
Yes.
about that. And once
Yes.
you let somebody feel like, oh, I can talk about myself, they'll go into that. And then
Yes.
they're like, oh, well, tell me. Like, oh, well, blah, 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 blah. But I've found a way to, because sometimes people hate going to corporate events, especially if they're a
Yes.
spouse and
Yes.
they're not in the field. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
anything about banking.
Right.
I read some articles and everything, but,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and my husband's in a very specific niche of banking,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
construction in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Autumn construction folks love me.
Right.
Their family love me. Their mama love me. Their
Right.
daddy love me. Their kids love me. Because
Right.
we talk about just who they are outside of the
Yes.
workplace.
Right.
And so if they're company owners, I talk to them like, okay, what is it like to own a company as an entrepreneur?
Right. Right.
We have similar things. And so just being able to have the art of conversation, where
Mm-hmm.
the art of listening, actively listening, asking questions that have to do more about the person. And especially, like I
Right.
said, with introverts, y'all want to go deep. I'm an ambivert, so I can put on the extroverted, but more
Yeah.
often than not, I am so okay sitting on the couch by myself.
Yes. Yes.
But you have to learn to go, how do I leverage this skill? Because it's actually
Right.
a great skill set
It
to be
is.
able to dive deep with somebody. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you do that, you have a great rapport with John, and John talks to the person that you need him to talk to.
That's how that works.
A great person for you to have on this project,
Right.
and more often than not, they're only going to know that you're a great person to have on the project because they just think you're a great person.
Right. Right. And they've gotten to know you. And it's so
And they've
interesting that you
gotten
say
to know
that, because I'm the same way. I am naturally curious. So people always say the same thing to me. How'd you know that? How did you know to ask that question? How did you? Well, I wanted to know. It was good information to have, and it played in with what, it was me learning. And so I ask those questions, and I always call it professional extroversion, right? I'm out there because I have to be. But I just as soon be with my little tight circle or by myself. That's where I get my energy. I recharge alone. And so, but trying to get that idea of just get out there and get to know you and let people know who you are. It doesn't mean you have to be best friends with everybody you meet. In fact, that's probably not the thing you want to do, because that begins to cloud professional relationships. But you do need to have enough of a connection that people, as you said, you're human, right? There's a human connection.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so if we've now kind of gotten to that place where, okay, I get it. I'm going to show up, right? I'm going to be me. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to engage.
Mm-hmm.
But now, how do I show up and let people get to know me authentically? But I'm still kind of, do I really tell them what I really think about this? Do I show up to work, with my braids and my twists and my, or my blonde or my pink or my whatever, because that's how I'm gonna be at home, because I'm gonna take the wig off when I get home, and I'm on Zoom, and how are you helping people, just say, other than, find your space, be your space, but that strength to just understand that, yes, you got to code switch. We code switch all the time. That's how we survive. But there's still some authenticity in that. Yeah.
But why?
Yeah.
I mean, it's 2020. Like,
it is 2020.
Okay, the code switching made sense on the plantation.
Yeah.
But the code switching does not necessarily need to make sense in the boardroom.
Right. Right.
Our survival, yes, we have bills to pay. We want job security, so it's a different way of surviving. But the fear that was there, when during enslavement, is not the same fear in terms of like
Right.
it's not our lives, maybe our livelihood in the short term, you know, in the terms like, oh, if I don't get this job or keep this job, you know, I have these bills that I need to pay, but it's not your life, you know, so you aren't going to die because you decided that you were going to rock your blonde locks, you know, it's just not supposed to happen. So it is that question, but I believe it's baby steps because it's learned behavior that you have to unlearn. Yes. I mean, I remember, you know, getting out of college. By that time, I probably was 2 years without a relaxer. And my parents were like, how are you going to find a job?
Right.
Like, because I'm smart, like my resume, they don't like me. You look at my hair, you know, but then here we are having to have laws created. To say that you cannot discriminate somebody because of their hair. This is 2020. It does not make any sense. But, you know, I never want to push any of my clients into the deep end. Like little by little, what are you comfortable sharing today? What are you comfortable sharing this week? How do you lean into the courage of being you? You know, because sometimes that code switching is not just at work. Many of us can put different masks on. If we struggle with some kind of mental, you know, invisible disability, we pretend to be happy. Right. You know, so what does it look like to actually serve yourself? And fill your own cup and go like, okay, I'm going to just wear this outfit. What happens? And most of the time it's perceived fear. It's absolutely not actual, you know, like no one told you couldn't wear yellow. But yet you told yourself you can't wear yellow. That's just too bright of a color. They're going to be. What does wearing yellow have to do with you being on the project? Absolutely nothing. But it is that work of being comfortable. You know, one of the things that I tell my clients is like, I want you to be comfortable in the skin that you're in, regardless of where you are in life. And some of us have to really practice being comfortable with who we are, and all of us, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly, the broken. But I never would encourage somebody to just jump off the deep end. Take the baby steps, so that you can be able to build that courage muscle. It's all a muscle. So you don't start lifting 100 pounds. You start at the 10-pound weight, and you go to the 10-pound weight. And so it takes some time to go, okay, I used to think this way. It has not served my well-being. I need to do something different. Let me try this. And more often than not, you'll probably get a positive response. And then be a little upset, like I've done wasted 5 years. Well, I've been rocking my hair, you know. But it is something, and that's not to say that you can't wear your wig. Wear your wig.
Absolutely.
But in the sense that if that is because you feel you can't be you, then that's not a healthy relationship between who you are, how you show up in the world, and your experience within the workplace.
Well, and that's so important because, you know, as we begin to navigate a career, whether that's in a corporation, whether that's building our own business, all of those kind of things, we have to make a choice, right? So we have to examine ourselves and be really self-aware, who we are, what we want, what we're willing to do to get it. Because if anything worth having, it takes some work, right? And so we have to be ready to experience some challenge in getting to where we want to be. And at the same time, we have choices. So we can say, you know what? I know this is where I want to be right now. And so I'm going to just sit still for a minute. It's not ideal. I'm having to deal with this other stuff, but I can see where this is on my path. But I've taken the time to understand that. So I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So this isn't that feeling of stuck. It is a step along the path to where I'm trying to go. And that feels very different, right?
It's so different because it puts you back into, you know, the driver's seat. You have control.
You have control. And so us being willing to own our own stuff, because the other side of that is, as I say, you need to do you. You need to be you, but you don't always need to bring all of you to every situation. Because a corporate situation is different than your family Thanksgiving dinner. That's different. So, you know, you really got to understand what that means. And if you are working in design, wear the crazy cut and the colors and the ear hole things, which just make my ears hurt when I look at those. Wear all that stuff, all the piercings, all the tattoos, wear it all loud and proud. If you are in oil and gas in Southeast Texas, they're not quite there yet.
No.
They're not quite there yet. Now, you may be able to get away with one of those things. Like you might have, the one tattoo on your feet, or you might have a streak, or you might have the one piercing somewhere, or, multiple in your ears or something. You gotta, just like you take baby steps, sometimes you gotta bring people along with you. Because once they know you, I think it was Coco Chanel said, wear a shabby dress, they'll remember the dress. Wear an impeccable dress, they'll remember the woman. So, and I was like, that is so powerful, because I'm not saying don't show up as you are, because you have to show up as you are, because telling that lie all day, every day is just too much work. That's too much work. You just have to decide where the boundaries are. I don't even want to say how much of you to show. You always want to show all of you. It's just the boundary. Where's that boundary? And you still have the tats, you still have the ear piercings, you still have the streaks in your hair, you still have all of that. You just don't necessarily show everything to everybody. Just like everybody doesn't need to know that you have blue dishes instead of red dishes, because it doesn't matter. You cook and you eat and you're okay, right?
You cook and you eat. There you go.
So, it's really about understanding those pieces and how you want to show up and what is along the path to where you want to go. So morphing that, let's dig a little bit deeper into what we're all dealing with now, which is this work from home, kids at home, spouse at home, or you're at home like me, home by yourself, nobody else there. So that's a whole different set of stuff. What are you telling people, or what have you found as you've been talking to your clients, as you yourself have been going through this, those key things to really think about to keep kind of your sanity and your grounding, not even sanity, but just your grounding in this, I'm not even going to call it a new normal, in this space that we're in now. How are you, how are you handling it, and how are you telling people and telling your clients the things to think about? What are the things they should think about to not go crazy?
Okay.
Where to start, right?
Where to start? Well, first, let me preface. I am a wife and a mother of 3, and I have 2 of those 3 who are in elementary school.
Okay.
And I have a toddler. So, if are there going to be any
picture
visuals?
that, right? Yes.
I'm wearing my daughter's
right.
Nice
I think it's perfect. Yes.
So it has been interesting, because I feel that there's always seasons. We should do this all the time, but there's particular seasons in our life that are, I think, meant for us to take inventory.
Yes.
What has served us well? Where have we invested too much time in? Where have we not spent enough time or, investment in? And that could be people or things. And so with myself and with my clients, I recognize that they're just like, ooh, I didn't realize how much I value my quiet time, or I didn't realize how much I didn't like commuting, or wow, I didn't realize how much I value being around people, So just taking inventory of what has worked, what has not worked. I have one client, she cracked me up. She's like, oh, there's this one girl that you just need to kick out the club because she stressed me out. And I realized after COVID, I do not need to be bothered with anything that don't serve me. Oh, girl, gonna have to find another group. And I was just, it tickled me. But she was like, she's not aligned with where we are in life, and it brings stress. And I do not want to be stressed. It's showing me that I do have control and say of how do I create my life, and a client had said this, and I love it, and I share it with other clients. How do you create your life by design?
Yes.
How are you intentional with what you do? So at home, I realized how much my kids enjoy my husband in my presence.
Yes.
It's also taught me to, give them a little bit more independence. It also helped me shape how I did work in life. So for those who are listening, I have a private practice, but I had to shut that down once the kids did 100% remote learning.
Right.
And the private practice isn't the WorkingWell Daily company. The private practice is just Farah Harris therapy.
Right.
And I was like, I can't own 2 businesses, be a mother and present with them, and still show up as a wife.
Right.
And it's not a situation that was difficult for me to make
Right.
because I was looking at what was aligned. I was looking at what was
Yes.
important to me. My value is the well-being holistically of my
Yes.
family.
Right.
And it wasn't, oh, I can make this much money. I can open up a practice. Maybe I don't see clients, but I can hire people in.
Right.
I was like, that just sounds like stress.
Yes.
We're already in a pandemic. I don't need to deal with any stress.
Right.
But I think I would encourage us to take inventory during this time.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that I've been trying to help with my clients is to set up this time as preparation.
Yes.
So when the outside opens up again, because it will open up again,
Mm-hmm.
that you should be prepared for whatever that will be. So
Yes.
for those who realize that, okay, well, while I'm with you, Farah, I want to work on my romantic relationship.
Right.
And I think that's so weird because that takes two to tango. And I said, does it? It doesn't.
Only takes one to change a relationship.
And so if you have a history that you can look back and reflect, and like I said, take inventory, you can already prepare for what questions to ask, what emotions to look for, what thoughts happen when you decide that you want to start dating again. And they're like, oh, I never really thought about it that way. I said, we can totally use this time as prepreration, but it also could be your health. I'm saying I'm stressed, but don't go to stress eating or, or hooking up just because you're craving some kind of attention. Because like I said, when we get out of this, because we will. I said, we don't want to get out of this worn. We want to get out of this well. And
that's good.
Yeah. So we want to be well in how we care for ourselves. Are we napping? I'm a napper.
Right.
I'm so upset I didn't get my nap today.
Yes.
Because rest is productive.
Yes.
Because if I want to show up as a happier mom, a more balanced, I love the word that you use, a more grounded individual.
Yes.
I have to take those moments to recognize, like, wow, before all of this, we were running, doing.
Yes.
It almost is actually difficult for many people to slow down.
Yes.
I had a girlfriend tweet today. She goes, oh, every time I open my email on Monday and I see people sending messages from Sunday night, I'm thinking about my girl Farah, like, your work-life alignment ain't allowed.
Right.
Why?
Yes.
No. Emails on Sunday night.
Right.
It's because you're having that mindset, well, I'm at home, so I might as well.
Yeah.
And you're not creating those boundaries that still keep you sane. Yes. That you can recognize that though I may not physically have a work building that I go to, that I leave and come home on Friday afternoons and don't see again until Monday. You have to create those imaginary boundary lines with yourself. So it is really a time of, I feel, I'm encouraging people to reflect, to recognize, where they've invested and where they should be investing more. So some people are like, ooh, I did not take care of my home. And this is the only place I need to be right now. Yes. So let me get the paint. Let me, add some flowers. Let me do something so that you can enjoy this place where you live, because it's all about living, not about working.
Exactly. Well, and as you said one time before, it's that whole idea of, just because I'm accessible doesn't mean I'm available.
I'm available. Yes.
And that is so powerful, Farah. When you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, because people started, I won't say we were there, but people were starting to get better at setting boundaries when we were all going to work.
I agree.
Right. I will be there, but I've got my kids thing. I'm not going to miss my kids thing. I'm not going to, there was a coach who, I think he was an NFL coach. And he said, I got to the place where I realized when my son got married or something, I realized, because I was in this NFL and it was all the time. And I was scouting and I realized I didn't know my kid. I had missed so much stuff. He said, so now if you work for me and you're on my staff, you don't miss a game. You don't miss a game. You don't miss a party. You don't miss a birthday. You don't miss a wedding. You don't miss those things.
That's authentic leadership.
That's authentic leadership. He said, because that time you can't get back and we will still be here. We will still be here. And I thought, you know what? I had to learn that too as a younger leader, because my brain is constantly going. And so I would start sending emails or start sending something because I knew if I get it down, then I don't have to think about it. What I wasn't thinking was the recipient of that email when the timestamp said 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. or Sunday night, or because my perspective was, I'm just getting it out so I can get it off my brain. I don't expect a response, but they don't know that.
Right.
And so I had to learn as a leader, I need to get it off my brain because that's how my brain works.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want my people to feel pressure. So they got this lovely thing called send message later, where you can figure out, okay,
The
I wrote
timing.
it at 2 a.m. I'm sending it at 10.
Yes. Yes.
It's
like, This is when
okay.
technology works for us.
Hello, you know,
Yes.
it's like thinking about those things. So being able to get just as adamant about setting your boundaries when you're at home all the time and saying, okay, yes, because of the stuff that we're doing, the project we're on now or what have you, I will be on these calls at 5 a.m. because I'm in an international, organization. I'll be on a call at 5 a.m. But between 10 and 11, I have got a call with my kids' school. I will be not available. Not available. I will get back to you later. I will work until 5. Starting at 5, that is family time. Yep. And then if I decide to get back on at 8 or 9, once the kids are gone to bed or once the husband's out or the dogs have been fed or whatever, then that's a choice I may decide.
Yeah.
But we teach people how to treat us. We teach people what our boundaries are. And if we don't have any, they won't either.
I remember working with a company specifically on self-care. And it was this international company, and the majority of their work was remote. And so but the thing is that it was such a great company to work for.
Yes.
That it was difficult for them to have healthy boundaries because they're just like, but that's such a great company. And they do this for us. And I get these perks.
And I want them to fire me. Right.
And so I remember one of the leaders was like, oh my gosh, she kind of had her aha moment, like you did, was she said that she had either a wisdom tooth pulled out or a root canal, and she was drugged up, and I think she also had something else, and she had like the flu, and still got on the call.
See,
and so she said she got on the call, and I think her boss was like, I need you to get off. She can't even talk. She was coughing and then, muffled. She still had the gauze in her mouth.
Right.
And she's like, after the fact, I had to think oh my gosh, I am telling my team, if you have an event for your child, do that, don't get on. But they're looking at me going, well, if such can get on after a root canal, I guess I can do it. And so we have to be just very, very aware that we have a ripple effect. Our actions impact other people. And it's not by what you say. Kind of like as a parent.
No.
Do as I say, but not as I do. No, your kids are watching you.
That doesn't work at work either.
It doesn't work at work either. And so your employees are watching you. You can give all the lip service about, get off at this time. Please take your vacation days. Don't answer the phone. But if you're still sending text messages and emails when this person is supposed to be out of the office.
Yes.
You're a boundary violator. And you now allow them to realize that they that they themselves don't have healthy boundaries because they're going to just keep showing up because they think they have to.
Exactly.
But I think to your point, it's in the beginning where you're saying we were starting to get there because there was so much rhetoric about work-life integration, work-life balance, whatever. People were like, companies, you need to do this to retain the talent. And then this hits. Now everybody's like, work, because you're at home.
So how come you're not showing your face on the Zoom call, right? We need to see your face because I can't believe you're working if I don't see your face. Come on, really?
The toxicity that you had in a physical building still bleeds over to the keyboard. And so people have to recognize that if they had issues at work when we were able to go to work, you're going to have the same issues whether you're on a computer or phone call now. And so you again take inventory. Is this really where you need to be?
Absolutely. And that understanding of, people will listen to what you say. They will believe what you do. And when there's misalignment, they're going to believe the actions, not the words. And so I tell leaders all the time, and this is one of the pet peeves for me. Your actions and your words must align. They must align and pay attention to what that is. Because if you are the person that's sending all the emails and you're showing up sick and you're, that's what they're going to believe. If you always tell them, if they ask you a question and every time you tell them something is wrong, they're going to stop asking, or they're going to do the exact opposite. Or if every time somebody makes a decision, you reverse their decision or tell them to do something different, they're going to stop making decisions. And you're going to find yourself, every decision is going to be pushed up because you were making them all in the first place. So why is anybody even going to make the effort?
Right.
Because you've taught them that their decisions are not valuable and you don't think they're right. So why would they spend the effort? They'll go spend effort doing something else. So you have to understand setting boundaries, because boundaries determine actions, not only yours, but those of other people who work with you. But you also have to understand how your actions, as you said, impact everything around you, that have a ripple effect. It's not just you. It is everyone around you, and everyone that's looking at you, and everyone that's watching you, and everyone that your people talk to about you, right? Yeah. It's bigger than you.
It's not even on a professional level. Like that's just life, period. So if that's happening within the workspace, imagine what that's doing in your personal life if you are that person.
Yes.
You know, so whether that's in a relationship, romantic relationship, whether that's in parenting, whether that's, you know, so I'm always asking, you know, if I start seeing a theme, if they're coming in on work issues, and I'm like, okay, is there any place that you, this happens to show up? Has anybody ever said this to you before?
Right.
Because we are always going to have some of those bad habits seep out. And because we have blinders on, we're not always going to recognize that this is what we do. It's like, so if you always come up behind your colleagues when they do something, are you coming up behind your kids? Are you coming up behind your man or your woman or whatever? So
just
do they
saying.
feel like, are you micromanaging everywhere?
Right.
So what is your trust issue? You know, why is it that you feel like, I know you hired this person, you paid them a salary.
Right.
And you pay them to for you to do their work? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
I tell people all the time, if I have to do your job, why do I have you? So we're going to find a way for me to make sure, and I don't have a problem delegating.
Yeah.
What I do pay attention to though, is if I've delegated and I've given you stuff to do, and then I can't trust that it's going to get done on time and in quality, or that you're not going to ask for clarifying questions, because I know me, I'm running really fast and I'm very transparent. And I tell people, if I've come and done, I call it a drive-by. If I came and did a drive-by and said, hey, I need to get this, and I keep moving, and you're like, what, stop me. You're not going to hurt my feelings, because I know I have a tendency to do that, and I'm moving so fast.
Yeah.
I try to pay attention to it, but I don't always catch it because it's busy. So no, I'm giving you permission to stop me and slow me down and say, I need clarification, because my expectation is if you don't say anything, you got it.
And you know it. Right. And you want to be able to show up well. And so you need to be able to know what you need. So if you have a very, like you said, hands-off type of leader,
right,
and you need more detail, then you need to be clear, okay, how can I still get what I need without stressing out my leadership? So, you know, maybe ask it in portions. Like, what is the first thing that you need to get done?
Right.
What is priority on this list?
Exactly.
Okay. And then have clarifying questions. Don't just go, so I know that you.
I didn't understand. Right.
I didn't understand. Okay, what did you not understand? Okay, do I have to have the whole conversation with? Okay, time is money.
Right.
You know, so I'm always encouraging people, like, know exactly what you want to say. And that is regardless if it's a conversation because there's a conflict, and you're trying to have some, you know, conflict resolution, or if it is that you're just trying to get clarification on a project or a position, just ask, but know what to ask. But
exactly. And those leaders who are thinking, oh, thank goodness, I don't have to have folks in my office. They're not talking to me every day. Oh, thank you, Jesus. Right. You still need to be reaching out to your people. You know, this is not the time. Yes, you don't have to be in their face all the time, and they're not in yours, and they're not knocking on your door. All you really introverted leaders, this is not the time to go ghost. People actually need you more now than they ever did. So I need you to put your big people pants on and talk to folks. Right? Make the Zoom call, send the email, pick up the phone. You need to be present, even more so now.
Because people are going through a lot. And people remember being seen, heard, and cared for. So whether it is that, you know, someone is caring, like, would be a woman like me with young children and trying to figure
Yes.
things out, but I'm one of your top leaders. Are you
Right.
checking in to make sure that I'm okay?
Right.
And then,
Right.
your Black employees, are you checking in to see if they're okay? You still
Right.
want to
The
care for
answer is
them
no,
as
by the
well.
way. We're not okay.
We're not okay.
Right.
And not okay.
Not by any stretch
That's
of
a
the
whole
imagination,
nother
but that's a
conversation.
whole different, that's the next podcast.
Right.
Right.
Yes. But, to be an intentional
Yes.
leader. And
Right.
so, like, even if you are an introvert, we talked about leveraging that skill set of being able to
Yes.
go deep. I'm not saying spend hours
Mm-mm.
talking to someone, but be
Right.
intentional and go, like, this week I will talk to 2 team members.
Right.
And I will talk to them, and I'll schedule, 30 minutes to talk to them
Mm-hmm.
just to see how they're doing. Not necessarily to ask about a product, because we do that real
Exactly.
quick.
Oh, yes.
Saying, oh, now, did you get the meeting this morning?
Right.
Just
Wait,
told you that my
what?
mama died, but you're like,
Right.
oh, right. So next thing, no,
Yeah.
no.
No.
Be intentional.
Yes.
Use emotional intelligence skills. So, if there's something that they're concerned about, performance and production, producing right now, and
Mm-hmm.
if they're feeling they're not producing at the same level that they were before, that could be a fear. So just taking,
Absolutely.
5 minutes
Absolutely.
before you call the person to, process what could they be concerned about.
Exactly.
And let
Exactly.
me see what I can say that can help decrease any anxiety that they have around this. Just having
Absolutely.
that social awareness
Mm-hmm.
will make a huge difference.
It really does. And I think it was Maya Angelou that said, people will remember how you treat them.
Yep.
People will
Not,
remember how you treat
not
them,
what you said, but how you made them feel.
how you made them feel. Right. And so Farah, as we end this, I mean, we could talk for another 2 hours.
I know.
And I'd love to do that. And we will, because we're going to have to do this multiple times because we just have so much we need to dig into. What would be kind of a lasting piece of advice or guidance or uplift that you would give people who are listening today?
So I would say, because you only have your life to live,
Mm-hmm.
to not internalize an external narrative, meaning
I love that.
don't take in what everybody else is saying about you, or what they think about you, or what they think they know about whatever it is that you're doing. Know what you feel and what you know about you, because you may have been raised with the you ain't never gonna be nothing. And that's the
Right.
voice that's in your head. So every time you try to do something, you're like, well, this isn't gonna work.
Right.
Or, based off of your size or your gender or whatever, the society gives a whole narrative about,
Right.
if you are able to be successful just based off of how you look. That's not going to serve you well. So I had to
Right.
learn for myself as my, journey has moved from, left and right and all of the above,
Right.
to really make sure that I stayed centered on my own story, because other people
Right.
have their own stories. Let them write it.
Yes.
I'm the
Yes.
narrator. I can edit, I can adjust, I can modify the story to be what I need it to be, so that I
Yes.
can be successful, that I can be happy. Because if I was to listen to other people, I wouldn't make the decisions that I made today that would end up causing me to have negative consequences due
Right.
to me being outside of my value system and being, like you said, misaligned because I was
Yes.
internalizing that external story.
Oh, I love that. Folks, I hope you got some really great stuff out of this. I know I did. Every time I talk to Farah, I get something new. And,
You feed me too.
right. and I think it's really, at the end of the day, have confidence in you, know you, own you, be good with you.
Yes.
Because you're the only you there is.
Yes.
And that's a
Yes.
beautiful thing. It's a
Yes.
beautiful thing. So, Farah, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being my guest. This was awesome. And we will be doing this again because I think there's so much to cover. And for those of you listening, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Definitely go out and give us a like. If you're watching the video, like that too. It's out on YouTube. So, but if you're on the audio, please give us a like, download it on iTunes. If there's something else you want to hear, let us know. We'll make sure that happens. And I thank you for tuning in to The Rutledge Perspective. Have a great day. Bye. You've been watching The Rutledge Perspective. Thank you for tuning in. If we have given you a different perspective, or if you've learned something new that you hadn't thought about before, Please subscribe to the Rutledge Perspective podcast where you get your favorite podcasts, and give us a like on iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher. We really appreciate it. And your feedback is important as well, as we use that to inform our next episodes. You can also head over to my website, laurelrutledge.com, and download a freebie called Where's My Mojo that can really help you get out of your rut or maybe talk you back off that ledge of frustration. You can also find previous episodes of the Rutledge Perspective on laurelrutledge.com. I really appreciate your tuning in. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.